Come home, now." Makina's voice cracked through the speaker before Kalen Hart even reached the elevator doors. For a second, he thought he'd heard her wrong. Above him, on the top floor of the glass tower, investors waited with cameras, contracts, and perfect smiles. This was the night he was supposed to grow his empire. Instead, his maid was whispering like the house was on fire. "Makina?" he said, already annoyed. "You know I'm about to walk into—" "She'll destroy her," Makina cut in. Her breath shook. Somewhere behind her, something crashed, sharp and loud. A small sound followed, thin and broken, like a child trying not to cry. "Sir, please, you need to come home, right now." His hand hovered over the elevator button. The numbers above the doors glowed, waiting on him. Downstairs, his driver would be watching the clock. Upstairs, millions of dollars were sitting on white linen, holding their breath for his arrival. "Who?" he asked. "Makina. Who is she?" Silence, just breathing. The kind that sounded like someone was hiding in a dark corner, pressing a hand over her own mouth. If your phone rang like this on the biggest night of your life, would you still walk into the party like nothing was wrong, or would you turn around? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. "Makina, talk to me," Kalen said. His voice was lower now, the anger gone, something colder sliding in behind his ribs. "Is this about Luna? Is she hurt?" Another crash, a muffled shout, female, sharp like broken glass. Then a tiny sob, so soft he almost thought he imagined it. Makina's whisper came back, thinner than before. "She's with Luna," she said. "I can't stop her alone." The elevator chimed, doors sliding open with a soft, expensive sigh. On the other side waited polished floors, press lights, the smiling host who'd personally begged him not to be late tonight. Kalen stared at his own reflection in the metal wall. Sharp suit, steady hands. The man people called unshakable. "Makina, listen to me," he said. "Tell me exactly what she's doing to my daughter." For the first time since he'd known her, Makina didn't answer right away. He could hear her moving, hear her trying to be quiet. A door creaked somewhere on her end. A voice in the distance snapped, "What are you doing with that phone?" Makina sucked in a sharp breath. "Sir," she whispered, "please don't hang up. Just come home." The line went dead. The elevator waited. The investors waited. The world he'd built waited. Kalen lowered the phone, staring at the "call failed" message like it was some kind of joke. Then his screen lit up again. One new message. No name, no picture. Just 4 words. "She knows you're coming." And for the first time, Kalen realized he might already be too late. To her. The message on Kalen's phone burned into his eyes as he tore through the lobby. Someone called his name. Another tried to hand him a folder, but he didn't hear a word. His footsteps hit the marble, hard, fast, like he was trying to outrun the fear rising in his chest. People moved out of his way without knowing why. They felt the shift in him, the way a calm sky suddenly warns a storm is coming. He pushed through the revolving doors and headed straight for the car. The driver jumped out, startled by the look on his face. "Sir, is everything—" "Home," Kalen said, yanking the back door open. "Don't stop. I don't care how. Just move." The driver didn't question him. He slammed the door shut and pulled into traffic hard enough for the tires to cry against the road. For a few long seconds, Kalen tried to steady his breathing, but the words from that text replayed over and over. "She knows you're coming." "Sir, did something happen to the little one?" the driver asked, voice tight. Kalen didn't answer. He was already dialing Makina. Straight to voicemail. He called again. Same thing. He called the house phone. No response. Called security. Silence. Not even the usual automated tone. He opened the app linked to his home cameras. Offline. All of them. Every angle. Every room. Something cold slid down his spine. This wasn't a simple meltdown. This wasn't just Aristella being dramatic or Makina overreacting. Something here was wrong in a way he hadn't allowed himself to imagine. And in that moment, one thought cut deeper than all the rest. If a father like him could miss the signs in his own home, how many children were suffering quietly while the adults around them were too busy to look closer? He pushed the thought away, but it stayed. Heavy. The driver glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "Sir, whatever's waiting at that house, we'll face it." Kalen didn't respond. He couldn't. His mind was stuck on Luna's small voice from the night before. The way she had hesitated before hugging him. The way she had looked like she didn't know if she was allowed to cry. The car turned into his street. The mansion stood at the end like a silent giant, but something about it felt wrong. Too dark. Too still. The porch lights, normally bright and warm, flickered weakly like they were struggling to stay alive. The driver slowed. "Sir, do you see that?" Kalen leaned forward. The house wasn't just dark. It looked like it was holding its breath. And then he saw it. A single window, glowing where no light should be. A room that should have been empty. His heart dropped. Someone was inside. The car hadn't even stopped moving when Kalen threw the door open and ran. The tires screeched behind him, but he didn't look back. His eyes were locked on the mansion, the home that suddenly felt like a stranger staring at him through dim, uneven lights. The closer he got, the heavier the air felt, like the house itself didn't want him inside. He reached the gate and froze. The guard's chair was empty, coffee still warm on the small wooden table beside it. The radio, usually clipped to the guard's shoulder, lay on the ground, cracked. Nothing about this looked normal, not even by accident. Something inside him pulled tight. He pushed the gate wider and sprinted across the driveway. The front door stood slightly open, almost inviting, but the kind of invitation that makes your stomach twist. Kalen stepped inside. Silence. The kind of silence that doesn't belong in a house where a child lives. No footsteps, no kitchen radio playing soft jazz. Makina never cooked without it. No staff moving around, no voices, just empty air pressing against his ears. He swallowed hard. "Makina?" he called. His voice echoed across the foyer like it didn't belong there. Nothing. "Luna?" Still nothing. He tried not to panic, but dread crawled up his throat. His shoes clicked sharply on the marble as he walked deeper into the house. Each step felt too loud, too alone. He could hear his own breathing, unsteady, sharper than usual. A man like him wasn't supposed to shake, but his chest tightened anyway. "What did I miss?" he whispered under his breath. "What did I leave them with?" He passed the dining room. Empty. The kitchen. Empty. Chairs pushed out like people stood up too fast. A glass on the floor, unbroken but out of place. Little things you don't notice on normal days but feel wrong when danger is hiding somewhere in the shadows. He stepped into the hallway toward the family wing. That's when he heard it. The softest sound. A child's sob. Faint. Fragile. The kind of sound that makes your whole body react before your mind catches up. He followed it, quickening his steps, heartbeat pushing against his ribs. The sob faded, then returned, barely there. He reached the hallway corner, and that's when he saw it on the wall. Words, written in shaky, scared handwriting. "Papa, please hurry." He stopped breathing. That single sentence cut him deeper than any betrayal, any business loss, any argument he'd ever had. Because it wasn't just fear written on that wall. It was trust. Trust that he would come. Trust that he would save her. Trust he was already failing. If you saw that message from someone you loved, the kind written with shaking hands, what would you even do next? Kaylin reached out and touched the wall gently, his fingers resting on the word, Papa. His eyes stung, but he blinked hard and forced himself forward. He took one more step, just one, when a voice whispered behind him, low and cold enough to stop his heart. "You're too late." He spun around instantly. No one was there. Kaylin didn't breathe. He spun toward the sound, heart pounding, but the hallway behind him was empty. No footsteps, no shadow, no one. Just the whisper hanging in the air like a cold hand on the back of his neck. He forced himself to move. Each step tighter than the last until he reached the playroom door. It was half open, trembling slightly, like someone had pushed it just a second before he arrived. He pushed it fully open. The room looked like a storm had ripped through it. Toys snapped in half, stuffed animals thrown against the walls. The little table where Luna liked to draw flipped on its side. Crayons crushed into the carpet, pages ripped in long, angry lines. Luna's drawings, bright and soft and innocent, torn apart like they meant nothing. And in the center of all that ruin stood Aristella. Perfect hair, perfect dress, perfect posture, not a scratch on her, not a strand out of place. She looked like she had walked into a photo shoot, not destruction. Kaylin stepped inside slowly. "Where is Luna?" Aristella didn't even turn. She held one of Luna's drawings in her hands, the picture of Luna holding Makina's hand, while Kaylin stood behind them, all three smiling under a sun drawn with yellow crayon. "She's learning her place," Aristella said softly. Calm. Too calm. Kaylin's chest tightened. "What did you do?" She looked at him then, smiling. The kind of smile that made your skin crawl because you knew it had nothing to do with joy. Still holding his daughter's drawing, she pinched the edge of the paper. "Children listen better," she said, "when they understand what matters." Then she tore the drawing, slow, on purpose. Eyes locked on his the entire time. The sound of the ripping paper sliced through him. It was small, almost nothing, but it felt like a scream, because this wasn't discipline. This wasn't teaching. This was cruelty dressed in designer clothes. Imagine walking into a room like this and pretending it's normal just because the one doing the damage smiles nicely in public. Kaylin stepped closer. "Where is my daughter?" Aristella tilted her head slightly. "Some lessons hurt more, Kaylin, but she'll thank me one day." He was about to shout when a small voice drifted from the dark corner behind the overturned toy box. "Papa?" His whole body moved at once. He rushed toward the sound, heart breaking wide open. But when he reached the corner and crouched down, Luna didn't run to him. She shrank back, eyes wide, hands trembling, as if even he wasn't safe anymore. Kaylin froze, his hand hanging in the air between them, and the realization hit him harder than anything Aristella had ever said. Something had already broken his daughter. Before he even walked into the room, Kaylin stayed frozen for one long second, arms stretched toward Luna, his hand trembling in the space between them. She didn't move, She pressed herself deeper into the corner instead, shoulders tight, eyes wide, fingers gripping the fabric of her little dress like she was bracing for impact. It broke him in a way he wasn't ready for. He lowered himself slowly, knees touching the floor, voice dropping to a softness he hadn't used in years. "Moonbeam, it's me." He tried to smile, but his throat hurt too much. "I'm here now. You're safe." Luna didn't come. She didn't even blink. Her gaze flicked past him instead, toward Aristella, and the way she flinched when Aristella shifted her weight told Kalen everything he needed to know. He reached out again, slower, gentler. "Come here, sweetheart, please." Aristella folded her arms with an annoyed sigh. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Kalen. She spilled juice on my handbag. She's being dramatic. That's all this is." Luna's breath hitched at the sound of her voice, her small body curling tighter. She looked like she wanted to speak, but was too scared to try. Kalen turned sharply toward Aristella. "Don't talk." The anger wasn't loud. It was quiet, controlled, but sharp enough that Aristella's lips snapped shut. Still, Luna didn't move. He tried again, softer, voice cracking in the middle. "Moonbeam, please look at me." This time, Luna's eyes lifted just a little, enough for him to see how red and swollen they were, enough for him to see she'd been crying long before he arrived. He opened his arms. No pressure, no pulling, just an invitation. "Can you come here?" Luna hesitated. 1 second, 2, 3. Then she slowly crawled forward. Not a run, not a jump, a crawl, like she was afraid someone would stop her. When she reached him, she didn't speak. She collapsed into his chest as if her small body couldn't hold the weight of everything inside her anymore. The sound that came out of her wasn't a cry. It was months of swallowed fear breaking all at once. Kalen wrapped both arms around her, holding her close, his chin trembling against her hair. He could feel her shaking, not from cold, from something deeper, something she had tried to survive. Alone. Aristella rolled her eyes. "Honestly, Kalen, children cry. This is nothing new. She's—" "What?" Kalen said, turning slowly. "Did you say to her?" Aristella lifted her chin, pretending confidence. The truth. Someone had to tell her. Luna's grip tightened on his shirt. "What truth?" Kalen pushed. Aristella shrugged lightly, like she wasn't ripping someone apart. She needed to hear it. Someone had to tell her her mother didn't love her enough to stay. Luna's entire body flinched, the kind of flinch you don't fake. She tried to speak, but her voice caught on a sob. "Papa," she said. "Mama didn't—" A sound exploded through the hallway, not a small crash, not a dropped object, a violent slam, followed by a shout, someone screaming Makina's name. Every head snapped toward the door at the same time. Kalen lifted Luna in his arms, holding her tight as he stood. Aristella stiffened. The house that had been quiet a moment ago now pulsed with something sharp and dangerous. Another crash shook the hall. Someone upstairs yelled again. Louder, this time. Kalen's heart dropped. Something, or someone, had just entered the fight he wasn't ready for. The second crash shook the walls before Kalen could even move. Luna clung to his neck, her fingers digging into his suit, as if she thought letting go would make him disappear. Aristella took a step back, eyes flicking toward the doorway, annoyance, not fear. Then Makina appeared. She stood in the doorway, chest rising fast, apron torn at the side, one curl hanging out of her usually neat bun. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were steady, locked straight on Aristella like she had finally decided she was done being quiet. She's lying, Makina said, voice raw. Everything she told Luna is a lie. Aristella let out a low laugh. Here comes the overdramatic maid. Makina walked into the room and went straight to Luna, placing one gentle hand on the girl's back. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. "You didn't do anything wrong." Luna's grip loosened just enough for her to peek over Kaylin's shoulder. When she saw Makina, something in her eyes softened, but the fear didn't leave. Kaylin shifted his hold on his daughter, but didn't put her down. His voice was tight. "Makina, tell me exactly what happened." Aristella rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, we're not doing this. The child spilled juice. I raised my voice. She cried. That's all." Makina's jaw clenched. She moved, placing herself fully between Luna and Aristella, her body a shield. "You don't talk to a child like that and call it love," she said. "You don't break her things and break her spirit and then act like you're helping her." Aristella's smile thinned. "You clean floors, Makina. You don't decide how I parent." Makina didn't look away. "You don't parent. You punish." Kaylin felt a sting in his chest. "Makina," he said, "start from the beginning." Makina nodded once. Luna wasn't clumsy today. She didn't spill anything. She wasn't running wild. She was sitting at her little table, drawing quietly like she always does. "What was she drawing?" Kaylin asked. Makina glanced at the torn pages scattered everywhere. "The same thing she's been drawing for weeks, her family." She bent down and picked up a ripped piece of paper, smoothing it with her fingers. On it, a small part of a familiar figure, Kaylin's suit drawn in blue crayon. Aristella saw the torn pieces too. Her face hardened for a split second before she caught herself. "So what? Children draw nonsense all day." Makina shook her head. "You walked in, you saw the drawing. You saw that she didn't draw you in it, and instead of asking why, you snapped." She turned to Kaylin. She grabbed the sketchbook from Luna. She didn't ask. She didn't talk. She yanked it right out of her hands. Luna made a small sound, half sob, half breath. Makina's voice shook as she kept going. Luna said, "Please don't. I worked hard on that one." And Aristella looked her in the eye and said, "Hard work? This is trash." Then she started ripping out the pages. Kaylin stared at Aristella. "You did that?" Aristella folded her arms. "She needs to understand life isn't always gentle. Better she learns it now from me than from the world." Imagine a child saying, "I worked hard," and the answer being a tear through everything she loved. Makina kept her hand on Luna's back, rubbing circles. She told Luna if she keeps drawing like that, everyone will leave her, that she ruins everything she touches, that even her own mother didn't want her. Kaylin's head snapped back to Makina. "What?" Makina's eyes shone, anger and pain mixing together. She didn't just say, "Your mother isn't here." She said, "Your mother left you because she didn't want you. She walked away. That's why I'm here. I'm the one stuck with you now." The words hung heavy in the air. If Makina hadn't spoken up, this moment would have been just another secret buried under a rich family's carpets. How many Makinas stay silent because they're afraid to lose their jobs? Aristella's face flushed. "She's twisting it. I was teaching her not to be so sensitive. The world will not hand her kindness just because she cries." Kaylin's voice came out low. "Did you say those exact words to my daughter, that her mother left her because she didn't want her?" Aristella hesitated, and that tiny pause was all the answer he needed. "I told her the truth," she snapped. You've been babying her. Someone had to wake her up. Her mother isn't here. She left her. Isn't that the same thing as not staying?" Luna pressed her face into his neck as if she could disappear. A broken whisper slipped out. "Papa, I didn't do anything bad." Kalen held her closer. "I know, Moonbeam. You didn't." His eyes never left Aristella. "You opened your mouth and put your cruelty where a 7-year-old's heart lives." Makina took a shaky breath. "Sir, this is not the first time she's said things like that, but tonight she went further." Aristella scoffed. "Oh, now we're writing a drama script?" Makina ignored her. She looked only at Kalen. She didn't say, "Your mother died." She said, "Your mother left." She made it sound like Luna was abandoned, like she was some mistake nobody wanted. "What else did she say?" he asked. Makina's fingers curled into her apron. She glanced at Luna, then back at him. "She told Luna there are things about her birth you never wanted her to know, and that if Luna keeps asking questions, you'll send her away just like her mother did." Luna made a small choking sound. The sound cut straight through the room, cold. "I didn't," Aristella started, but Kalen shot her a look that froze her in place. Makina swallowed. "Sir, that's not even the worst thing she opened the door to tonight." And the way she said it made it clear. The real damage hadn't even been uncovered yet. Makina didn't even answer her own last sentence. She just slid her hand back into her apron pocket, slow and tense, like she was reaching into something that might bite. Luna stiffened in Kalen's arms, her small fingers digging into his shoulder again. She wasn't looking at Aristella now. She was watching Makina's hand. Makina pulled out a small, folded cloth. It was nothing special to anyone else, soft, worn, the edges a little frayed. But the way she held it made it feel holy. She opened it carefully, one fold at a time, as if she'd done this 1,000 times in secret and never in front of anyone. Inside lay a tiny silver bracelet. It caught the overhead light and threw a thin, cold shine across the ruined playroom. The metal was slightly scratched, the shape round and delicate. It was the size of a baby's wrist. That was all it took. Kalen's chest locked. He knew that bracelet. He remembered the night he'd opened the little velvet box. His wife sitting on the edge of their bed, thumb running slowly across the engraving like she was afraid to blink and lose it. A.M. He had locked it away after that, in a small wooden box high on the shelf in his private closet. He checked it once a year, on Luna's birthday. Never touched it any other time. It was the last piece of the woman he believed had carried his daughter. "How is that here?" he asked quietly. "Where did you get it?" Makina didn't look at him. She looked at Luna. Luna's grip on his suit tightened. Her voice came out rough and small. She threw it at me," Luna whispered. "She said it was nothing. She said it was stupid." Makina nodded, jaw tight. "I found it on the floor by her bed," she said. "Luna was in the corner, shaking. This was lying next to her like trash." Kalen turned slowly toward Aristella. His voice stayed low, but there was nothing soft in his eyes now. "You went into my private closet?" Aristella's chin lifted. "Your daughter was hiding things. I cleaned." "You were not cleaning," Makina cut in, her voice sharper than he'd ever heard it. "You were searching. You opened her drawers. You opened the little keepsake box. You took something you didn't understand, and you hurled it at a child." Luna flinched even hearing it, cheek pressing harder into Kalen's neck. Aristella shrugged. "Children who hide things grow up sneaky. Better she learns early that secrets don't last here. That bracelet is just a symbol of weakness. Kaelin stepped closer, still holding Luna tight against him. That bracelet belonged to her mother. For the first time, Aristella really looked at it. The small curl of her mouth never reached her eyes. And look how that ended. The words weren't loud. They didn't have to be. Makina moved before the rage in Kaelin's chest could reach his hands. She stepped in front of him so fast it startled even Aristella, her body now a wall between Luna and that voice. "You will not speak about her like that," Makina said. She wasn't yelling, but every word landed firm. "Not in front of this child, not while I'm breathing." Aristella stared at her like she was seeing her for the first time. "You forget your position." Makina's chin lifted a little. "No, I remember it very well. I'm the one who tucks her in when she has nightmares about being left. I'm the one who picks up the pieces when you tear things down. My position is beside her, whether you like it or not." Silence fell, thick and full. Torn drawings lay across the floor, crayons crushed into the carpet. The little message on the hallway wall, "Papa, please hurry," waited just outside the door. Kaelin looked at Makina, and for the first time, he saw more than loyalty or habit. He saw something heavier in her eyes, something that looked a lot like guilt and a lot like love. "Makina," he said slowly. "How did she even get that bracelet? It was locked away. No one else was supposed to touch it." Makina glanced at him, then down at the silver curve in her hand. "One of the young staff told me she asked for your code," she said. "Said you wanted her to update some things in Luna's room. They believed her. She didn't just open a drawer, sir. She went through everything. She wasn't just mad today. She was looking for something." "For what?" Kaelin asked. Makina stared at the bracelet like it was pulling her backward. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "It's about Luna's mother." The air changed with those words. Luna shifted slightly at the sound, not understanding the details, but understanding enough to know that word meant pain. Aristella's head snapped toward Makina. The smooth, practiced calm started to crack. "No," she said sharply. "You are not doing this." Kaelin's eyes narrowed. "Doing what?" Aristella ignored him. "You gave your word," she hissed at Makina. "You swore you would never say anything. You promised." Makina's fingers tightened around the bracelet until her knuckles went white. "I promised to protect Luna," she said. "That's not the same as protecting you." On the floor near Aristella's heel, a torn piece of Luna's drawing lay face up. A crayon version of Luna held hands with a tall man and a dark-skinned woman with a warm smile. Aristella's shoe nudged it aside, without even looking down. "Makina," Kaelin said, his voice steady but edged. "What are you not telling me?" She lifted her eyes to his. They were shiny, but she held his gaze. "There are things you were never told," she said quietly. "Things your wife chose to keep from you. Things I have held on to because I was asked to. But after what she said to Luna tonight..." Her eyes cut to Aristella. "I don't know if staying silent is still keeping her safe." Aristella stepped closer, control slipping from her voice. "You will destroy everything," she snapped. "Do you understand? Everything he has, everything he thinks he knows." Kaelin repeated that last part under his breath. "Everything I think I know." The words tasted bitter. Makina nodded just once. "It's about how Luna came here," she said. "About her birth, about who was there, and why some people in this house need her to believe she was never wanted. Luna's fingers twitched at that, her little body pressing closer, as if she could hide inside his chest. Aristella's voice rose. If you tell him, you break your promise. You destroy her sacrifice. Makina shook her head. Her sacrifice was for Luna, not for your comfort, not for your story. Kalen shifted his weight so that Aristella was forced to stop a step away from them. If there is something about my daughter that I don't know, he said, I won't stand here being lied to like a guest in my own house. She's manipulating you, Aristella insisted. She always has, playing the caring maid so you trust her more than your own wife. Enough, Kalen said. The word cut across the room like a hard line. He turned back to Makina. You said it's about Luna's mother, he reminded her. Tell me. Makina stared at him like she was standing on the edge of a point she could never come back from. Slowly, she opened her hand. The bracelet lay in her palm, small and bright and heavy with stories no one had voiced. Sir, she began, her voice barely there. Behind him, Aristella broke. Makina, don't you dare tell him, she screamed, the sound raw enough to make Luna flinch. Makina closed her eyes for one brief second, drawing in a breath that shook on the way in and came out steady. When she opened them again, the fear was still there, but something stronger sat beside it. Sir, she said, lifting the bracelet a little higher, you need to know the truth. Kalen's pulse hammered in his ears. All his careful order, all the things he never questioned, suddenly felt thin. Then speak, he said. Makina took one more slow breath, her fingers curling around the tiny circle of silver, like she was holding on to the very last step, before everything in their world changed. Makina's first word came out as a breath, more than a sound. It started with this, she said, lifting the bracelet just a little, as if the metal weighed more than it should. The ruined playroom around them felt far away now. Everything narrowed to that small circle of silver in her hand, and the way Aristella's eyes kept darting toward it like it was a knife. Kalen shifted his grip on Luna, keeping her close against his chest. Be clear, Makina, he said. No more half-truths. Makina nodded. You always thought this bracelet was a gift your wife bought the day Luna was born, she said softly. Something she picked out for her. That's exactly what she told me, Kalen replied. She brought it to the hospital. I was there. Makina swallowed. She brought it, she said, but she didn't buy it. A thin crack ran through the silence. Aristella took a sharp step forward. Stop right there. This is not your story to tell. Makina's eyes flashed. You made it my story the moment you threw it at a 7-year-old like trash. Luna's fingers tightened on Kalen's shirt again. He rubbed her back slowly, even as his own hands felt unsteady. Whose bracelet is it then? He asked. Makina looked down at the tiny letters engraved on the inside. It belonged to Luna's birth mother, she said, long before your wife ever held it. Kalen stared at her. For a moment, the room seemed to tilt. That makes no sense, he said. My wife carried Luna. I was there for every appointment, for the birth, for everything. Makina met his eyes, pain sitting heavy in hers. No, sir, she said quietly. She didn't. If you've ever believed a child belonged to a perfect story, ask yourself how many secrets were stitched into that picture just to keep it looking neat from the outside. Aristella's voice cut through the moment, higher now, thinner around the edges. She's lying, Kalen. She's trying to turn you against your own wife. against your own memories. Makena shook her head. You know I'm not, she said. You know exactly why she begged me never to open my mouth. Kalen's pulse hammered in his ears. Then why didn't anyone tell me? He demanded. Why build my life on a lie? Makena's shoulders trembled, but her voice stayed steady. Because she thought she was protecting all of you, she said. Protecting Luna, most of all. He stared at her, the edges of his world coming loose. Protecting her from what? Makena drew in a slow breath, fingers curling around the bracelet like she needed it to speak. From the truth about where Luna really came from, she whispered, and from who carried her into this world. She lifted her chin, the decision finally made. Sir, Luna's real mother was my younger sister. Aristella's hand flew to her mouth. The color drained from her face as Kalen's world finally, completely, cracked open around him. Kalen's arms tightened around Luna as if the truth might rip her out of his hands. His head was buzzing, but his voice came out steady. Her name, he said, eyes locked on Makena, was Amina. You said she was your sister. Start there. No skipping, no softening. I want all of it. Makena stood very still, the ruined playroom behind her, the little silver bracelet glinting in her fist. Amina was younger than me, she began. Too kind for this world. She trusted the wrong people. She thought sorry meant I won't do it again. It rarely did. She swallowed. When she found out she was pregnant, she was scared in a way I'd never seen before. We had nothing, sir. Tiny apartment. She didn't feel ready to raise a child in that. But from the second she knew, she loved that baby. She would talk to her stomach at night like it was a person. So why didn't she keep her? Kalen asked. Makena shook her head. She didn't want to give her up, she said. She wanted to give her forward. She didn't want her daughter to grow up watching the door for bill collectors or seeing her mother break down over rent. She wanted her to know safety before she knew fear. Her eyes softened. One night, Amina came home shaking. She said she'd worked a charity event downtown. She'd served coffee while rich people made speeches about giving back. She heard staff talking about you and your wife, how you treated workers with respect, how you and your wife had talked about adopting someday. Kalen felt that memory hit. He remembered that ride home, his wife staring out the window, saying, "There are children who belong with us. We just don't know their names yet." Amina held on to that, Makena said. She kept saying, "He's a good man. She's a good woman. If my baby lands anywhere near them, she'll be okay." "How did she even meet my wife?" he asked. Makena took a breath. "She found out where your wife volunteered, a clinic. She went there on her day off and waited outside with swollen feet and a paper cup of water. When your wife finally came out, Amina almost ran, but she didn't. She walked up to her and said, 'I think my baby belongs in your house.'" He could see it, his wife stopping, really looking at her. "Your wife didn't laugh," Makena said. She took her inside and listened. Amina told her about the pregnancy, the fear, the love. She said, "I don't want her to feel like a mistake." Your wife cried with her. Then she said, "If we do this, she will never be a mistake. She will be ours. She will be loved like she was planned." Aristella let out a thin sound. How touching. A secret deal made in a hallway. Makena's eyes flashed. "You weren't there," she said. "You didn't see how your husband's wife held my sister's hands like they were equals, how she promised to stand in the gap where the world had failed her. They decided to keep it quiet," Makena went on. No headlines, no gossip. The plan was simple. When the baby was born, the records would show her as yours. Your wife would sign what needed signing. Amina would step back. To the world, you'd had a hard pregnancy, but a healthy baby girl. And the night she was born? Kaylin asked. Makina's eyes went distant. Amina went into labor early, she said. I rushed her to the hospital your wife had written down. Your wife was already there. She had clothes, bottles, the bracelet. She kept telling Amina, "You're not alone. I'm here." Her voice shook. The delivery was hard. At one point, Amina grabbed my arm and said, "If I don't make it, don't let them tell her I didn't want her." When Luna finally cried for the first time, I thought we were past the worst. Your wife was laughing and crying. Then the monitors changed. The doctors moved faster. Amina was bleeding too much. They tried, but within minutes, she was gone. She died in that room, Makina whispered. Her last word was, "Please." Kaylin's throat burned. His wife had carried that memory alone for years. Every time she'd clung to Luna, she'd been fighting not just for her child, but for the promise she'd made to a dying woman. "She made me promise too," Makina said. "After they called the time, your wife grabbed me and said, 'We don't tell him yet. He needs to love her free from this story. No pity, no guilt, just love.' She said we would tell you one day, when Luna was steady enough to hold it." "And you agreed," Kaylin said. Makina nodded. "She asked me to keep the quiet parts, to make sure no one used the truth to hurt Luna. She said if the secret ever became a weapon, I had to choose the child over the promise." Aristella scoffed. "How convenient that the saint and the sister can't be questioned now." Makina turned on her. "You think any of this feels convenient?" she snapped. "You think watching a child break because of words you threw at her is easier than staying silent for years?" Luna's small hand crept up and gripped the front of Kaylin's shirt. For a moment, all he could do was hold her and feel the weight of it all. His wife's hidden kindness, Amina's fear, Makina's promise. Luna caught in the center. He looked back at Makina. "You said there was a danger tied to her pregnancy," he said slowly. "Something Amina never escaped from." Makina's fingers tightened around the bracelet. The light caught on the metal, a small, cold flash. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "There was." The way she said it made his skin crawl, because whatever that danger was, it wasn't finished with them yet. Makina didn't look away when she said it. "There was a danger tied to her pregnancy," she repeated, her voice low. "A danger that never came from the baby. It came from the man who put her in that situation." Kaylin felt Luna's weight in his arms. "What do you mean? Put her in that situation?" he asked. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Makina's eyes shimmered, but she nodded. "Amina didn't get pregnant because she was careless," she said. "She didn't get pregnant because she was out looking for fun. She was targeted." "Targeted by who?" Kaylin asked. "By a man who hated you before she ever knew your name," Makina said. "He knew you were rising. He knew people talked about you like you were untouchable. He wanted to hurt you in a way you would never see coming." Aristella, who had been pacing, suddenly went still. Her shoulders tightened, but she didn't turn around. Kaylin noticed. "You know something about this?" he asked her. She shook her head too fast. "No, I know nothing about whatever story she's building." Makina's gaze slid to Aristella for a second, then back to Kaylin. "Your wife knew him," she said quietly. "Not as a friend, as a problem. as someone who wanted more power than he deserved. Kalen's grip on Luna tightened. "You're telling me a man my wife knew hurt your sister just to get at me? He didn't even know me then." "He knew enough," Makina said. "He knew the kind of man you were. He knew people trusted you, wanted to work with you, wanted to put their money in your hands. He hated that deeply. He hated the way you walked into a room and people listened." She took a breath. Amina met him at an event. He was charming. Too charming. He offered her a ride home when her bus was late. He told her he knew people like you, that he moved in your world. She thought he was safe because of how he talked about you. Kalen's stomach turned. What did he do to her? Makina's jaw tightened. "He didn't take no for an answer," she said, each word. He wanted something from her that night. When she tried to pull away, he reminded her she was nothing compared to the men he knew. He pushed. She froze. By the time she made it home, she couldn't even say the word for what happened. She just kept saying, "He took it. He took it and walked away like I was nothing." Luna didn't understand the words, but she could feel the pain in them. She tucked her face deeper into her father's shoulder. A few weeks later, Makina continued, she realized she was pregnant. She wanted to end it at first. She said, "I don't want any part of him growing inside me." But every time she thought about it, she pictured the baby, not the man. She said, "The child didn't choose this. She's innocent." So she decided to carry her. She blinked hard. That's when she heard your name again. That's when she started making plans for the baby to land in your life, and not his. Every choice she made from then on was to keep that man as far from her daughter as she could. It's easy to judge a woman's choices when you never see the fear she lived in. If Amina's story hits you even a little, don't let stories like hers stay invisible. Kalen looked at the bracelet still in Makina's hand. It wasn't just a keepsake anymore. It was proof Amina had tried to build a wall between her child and a man who turned her pain into a weapon. "Did my wife know?" he asked quietly. "Did she know how Amina became pregnant?" Makina nodded. "Yes, Amina told her the night they made the plan. Your wife was shaking with anger. She said, 'Then we do this right. We make sure he never comes near the child. We change the records. We build a life so solid he can't even get a shadow into it.'" Behind them, Aristella made a low sound, almost a scoff. Kalen turned toward her. "You froze when she said, 'a man your wife knew,'" he said. "Why?" Aristella finally faced him. Her eyes were harder than he'd seen them all night, but there was fear underneath. "Because your wife knew a lot of people," she said. "Investors, rivals, men who pretended to be your friend." "That's not an answer," Kalen replied. Makina spoke softly. "Your wife mentioned his name once in front of me," she said. "She told me if he ever came near the clinic again, I was to call security before he got through the doors." Kalen's voice dropped. "What was his name?" Makina opened her mouth. "His name was—" A voice from the hallway cut through the air like a knife. "That's enough, Makina." Every head turned toward the door. The tone wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried the calm of someone who believed he owned every room he stepped into. Footsteps followed. Slow steps on the marble, not rushed. Makina's face paled. Her hand closed over the bracelet like she was trying to hide the past in her fist. Luna shivered against Kalen's chest. Aristella went rigid, as if every muscle in her body remembered something it wanted to forget. A tall figure appeared in the doorway, dressed in a dark suit that fit like it was made for him. His tie was loose, his expression bored, but his eyes held the kind of sharpness that watches people the way hunters watch prey. He leaned against the frame, gaze sweeping the room, the torn drawings, the broken toys, the trembling child, the maid, the wife, the billionaire. Then he smiled like he was walking into a meeting he'd been planning for years. "Miss me?" he asked. Caven didn't walk into the room. He arrived like he owned it, like he had been waiting for this moment, rehearsing it, enjoying it long before he ever stepped through the doorway. He stood tall, shoulders relaxed, confidence dripping from every breath he took. The torn drawings at his feet, the fear in Makeena's eyes, the child trembling against Kalen's chest. None of it touched him. He gave a slow, amused smile. "I see I've interrupted story time." Kalen shifted Luna into one arm, stepping forward with the other hand clenched. "How did you get into my house?" Kavan looked around, studying the art on the walls, as if admiring his own reflection in each frame. "Please," he said. "Your security is impressive. In theory. But you forget, Hart, everything can be cracked if you know where the seams are." Makeena sucked in a breath. "Sir, that's him." Kavan glanced at her, bored. "Hello, Makeena. Still dramatic, I see." Makeena stepped in front of Kalen instinctively, shielding Luna with her own body. "You don't speak to me. You don't look at her. You stay back." Kavan smirked. "You're shaking. I can hear it from here." Her voice trembled but stayed firm. "You're not coming near her. Not now. Not ever." Kalen studied the man's face. Something about him felt familiar, but not personally. More like the shadow behind a rumor, the name whispered among businessmen who never dared say it too loud. "You're the one who hurt Makeena's sister," he said. "You're the one Amina ran from." Kavan's smile widened. "Ah, she told her part, I see." "She told enough," Kalen said. Kavan tilted his head. "Did she tell you how she begged me for attention? How she followed me around until I got tired of her?" Makeena took a step forward, shaking. "Don't you twist that. Don't you dare rewrite what you did." He lifted one eyebrow. "Rewrite? Memory is cheap. Power decides the version that lasts, and I have always had more power than the girl who fetched drinks at my events." At that, Kalen's rage sharpened. He put Luna in Makeena's arms and stepped forward. "If you think I'm going to let you stand here and insult the mother of my child..." Kaven cut him off with a soft laugh. "Your child? Are you sure you still want to claim her when you realize what she really represents?" Makeena turned her back to him, shielding Luna completely. "Don't listen," she whispered to the girl. "Don't you dare listen to him." But Luna peeked over her shoulder anyway, small eyes wide with fear. Kavan noticed. His smile thinned into something darker. "You've grown," he said softly. "I wondered what she'd look like. Funny how some children can change everything without even trying." Kalen stepped between them. "You stay away from her." Kaven shrugged. "I haven't touched her. Not yet." Makeena inhaled sharply, her body going rigid. "Don't say it like that. She's not an object." Kaven looked at her with mild annoyance. "Everything is an object when you know how to use it." Kalen's voice dropped. "What do you want?" Kaven stepped further into the room, hands in his pockets, his shoes crunching over broken crayons. "What I've always wanted," he said. "To take everything you built, to watch your world collapse from the inside. And now that I know the truth about that child." He let the sentence linger, poisonous and deliberate. Makeena held Luna tighter. "Don't finish that," she whispered. Kavan ignored her. His gaze slid to Kaelin like he was sizing up a prize. "The irony," he murmured. "You raised a child whose existence was supposed to destroy you, and you didn't even know she wasn't yours." Kaelin stiffened. "She is mine." Kavan grinned. "In your heart, maybe. But hearts are weak. I want something stronger than your heart." Kaelin stepped closer. "What is that supposed to mean?" Kavan gave a small shrug. "It means she's the key to taking everything from you." Makina gasped. "You're not getting near her. I swear. I'll—" "What?" Kavan asked smoothly. "Scream? Cry? Beg? You've done all of that before. It didn't stop me then." Makina shook so hard Luna began to tremble with her. Kaelin lunged. He didn't plan it. His body just moved. Years of discipline, self-control, and billionaire composure shattered in 1 second. He launched himself across the room with one intention: to strike, to protect, to end. Kavan's smile didn't change. He reached calmly into his pocket and pressed a small button on a black device. The entire mansion shut down. Lights, heating, power, everything. The room plunged into total darkness. Luna screamed. Makina shouted her name. Furniture scraped as someone stumbled. Aristella cursed from somewhere near the wall. Kaelin reached out blindly, hands grabbing at the air, searching for Luna, for Makina, for anything. The darkness felt alive, thick, hot, suffocating. Then Kavan's voice cut through it like a knife, calm and cruel. "Now we play on my terms." And the room erupted in panic. The darkness hit like a punch. 1 second there were colors, shadows, faces. The next there was nothing but black, and the sound of people breathing too fast. Luna screamed, high and sharp, the sound of a child who believes monsters are real and has just had that belief proven. "Makina, hold her!" Kaelin's voice cut through the dark. "I've got her," Makina answered, somewhere to his right. He heard the rustle of fabric, the muffled sob against Makina's shoulder. "It's okay, Moonbeam," Kaelin called, forcing his tone to soften even as rage pounded in his veins. "I'm here. I'm not moving. Listen to my voice. You're not alone in this." Something bumped into his leg. A toy, maybe, but he stayed where he was, planting his feet like this pitch-black room was a battlefield, and he refused to give up even an inch. Slow footsteps moved across the floor. Not rushed, not afraid, just steady. "Kavan, you know what I like about the dark?" His voice floated out. "It makes everyone else honest. No faces to hide behind, no performance. Just breath and fear." "You've been hiding for years," Kaelin shot back. "You didn't come here for honesty." Kavan chuckled. "Didn't I? I've been ahead of you for longer than you realize, Heart. It's almost boring how easy you were to read." Kaelin turned toward the sound, hands curling into fists. "You don't even know me." "Oh, I know you," Kavan said. "The generous billionaire, the angel investor, the man who thinks loyalty is a shield. Do you know how pathetic it looks from my side, watching you build your empire and never once checking your own foundations?" Something about the way he said, "foundations," made Kaelin's stomach drop. "What did you do?" he asked. Kavan laughed softly. "I didn't have to do much. I put one person in the right place and let you do the rest. You built thy house. I just slipped someone inside." "Inside?" Kaelin repeated. "I've had someone on the inside of your life for years," Kavan said, "feeding me information, softening your edges, making sure you never looked too closely in the right direction." Silence followed, not because no one understood, but because everyone did. Somewhere to his left, Aristella gasped, It was small and sharp, like air stabbing its way out of her lungs. Makina heard it too. "Sir," she said in the dark, her voice trembling but clear. "Listen to her. She reacted before you did." "Aristella," Kalen called, his voice cold now. "What do you know about him?" Her voice broke. "I knew him a long time ago. Before you, before any of this. I thought he was gone. I thought I left him behind." Caven laughed again, deeper this time. "Left me behind? You don't leave me. You upgrade because of me." "Shut up," Aristella snapped. He ignored her. "You remember the first party, don't you?" he went on. "You in that cheap dress trying to pretend you belonged. The way you looked at the room like it was a world you'd never reach." "Stop," she said again, but there was less strength in it. "You were hungry," Cavan continued. "Hungry for status, hungry for money, hungry to never be the girl no one recognized again. I fed that hunger. I opened doors, introduced you to people who didn't even know your name before I spoke it." Makina's voice cut through the dark. "So you used her the way you used Amina." "Used?" Cavan repeated. "No. We had an arrangement. She gave me access. I gave her a shortcut. We both got what we wanted." Kalen's hands shook. "What kind of access?" "Oh, little things at first," Cavan said. "News about who you were meeting, what deals you were eyeing, then bigger things, how to make sure certain business moves stumbled, just enough for my people to step in." Aristella's breathing came faster. "I didn't know he would go this far," she whispered. "Kalen, I was scared. He said he'd ruin me if I ever walked away. If you think evil only looks like a stranger in the dark, remember this. Sometimes it wears perfume and smiles at your dinner table." Kalen swallowed hard. The woman he'd eaten with, traveled with, slept beside, part of his life, part of his image, had also been a doorway he never saw. "You were my wife," he said into the dark. "All this time, you were reporting on me?" "No," Aristella cried. "Not always, not like that. At first I did. Then I met you properly. Then I tried to cut him off, but he never really leaves." "Don't pretend you were innocent," Cavan said. "You liked what I gave you. You only grew a conscience when it started to cost too much." Makina shifted, and the sound of Luna's small sniffle followed. "Sir," Makina said softly. She knew his face before tonight. That's why she froze when he came in. Kalen pressed his fingers against his temple for a second, even though he couldn't see his own hand. "So, you and my wife have history," he said to Cavan. "You stalked my life through her. You hurt Amina to get to me, and now you're in my house." "In your house," Cavan agreed, "standing in the room where your carefully arranged world is finally cracking." Something clicked, plastic against plastic. Then a low hum began deep in the walls. The lights sputtered, once, twice. With a sharp buzz, they flickered back on. The room snapped into focus again, Aristella's tear-streaked face, Makina clutching Luna, torn drawings like scars across the floor. Caven stood in the center, remote in his hand, suit unrumpled, eyes sharp. For the first time in years, Kalen felt truly outnumbered in his own home, outplayed on every side. He looked straight at Kalen and smiled. "Let's make this simple," he said. "Your wife and I, we're partners." Kalen stared at Caven like the floor had just dropped away, and somehow he was still standing. "Partners?" he said, the word coming out low, almost calm, which made it worse. He turned to Aristella. "Explain, now." Aristella's mouth opened, but no sound came. Her lipstick was still perfect, but everything else was coming apart. The tremble in her jaw, the way her hands wouldn't stay still. "Say something," Kalen pushed, because if he tells me first, I swear you won't like what comes after." Kavan smiled faintly. "He does have a point. You should go first, darling. Tell him how we built you before he ever touched your hand." "Don't call me that," Aristella snapped, but her voice cracked. She dragged her gaze from Kavan to Kaylin, and whatever mask she'd been wearing finally slipped. "I met him before you," she said, the words spilling out fast, like she was afraid she'd lose the nerve if she waited. "Years before. I was nobody, Kaylin. I was doing small modeling jobs, chasing casting calls, getting told my face was almost right, almost pretty enough, almost interesting, almost worth remembering." She let out a shaky laugh. "He remembered me. He was at one of those events. He saw me in the corner and said, 'You're wasting your time over there. You should be where real decisions are made.'" Kavan tilted his head, amused. "I wasn't wrong." Aristella glared at him. "You told me you could get me into rooms that would never open for a girl like me," she went on. "You introduced me to photographers, stylists, sponsors. You told me what to wear, what to say, how to stand so I looked like I belonged." "And did it work?" Kavan asked lazily. "Yes," she snapped. "It worked. I got campaigns. I got invited places I had watched from the outside. People who never remembered my name before suddenly wanted my number." Kaylin's chest tightened. "And all that came with a price?" he said quietly. She nodded, eyes wet. "At first it was small things, favors, information. Smile at this man. Whisper this rumor. Make sure that brand drops that sponsor." It felt like playing a part. Then it got darker. He liked the way people trusted me, liked how I could get close to anyone. Kavan's eyes gleamed. "You were my favorite piece on the board." Aristella's shoulders curled inward. "When I tried to leave, he changed," she said. "He reminded me of the contracts he'd arranged, the deals tied to his name. He said if I walked away, he'd destroy everything. Call me a liar, leak photos, make sure I never booked another job again. He said he'd do worse if I crossed him." Makina shifted, still holding Luna. "So you married Mr. Kaylin," she said softly. "Not just for love, for protection." Aristella flinched, but she didn't deny it. "When I met you," she told Kaylin, "I was already trying to escape him. You were kind. You listened. You didn't treat me like decoration. And yes, I saw your influence, your power. I thought, if he chooses me, maybe Kavan won't touch me again." Kavan clapped his hands once, slow. "You see? A perfectly reasonable strategic marriage." "Shut your mouth," Kaylin growled. Aristella took a step closer, desperate. "I did fall for you," she insisted. "That part wasn't fake. I loved what we had. I loved our home. I loved most of it." Her eyes flicked to Luna for a moment, and that tiny hesitation said more than anything she could have spoken. "You resented her," Kaylin said, the realization settling like ice. Tears spilled over now. "You gave her all of you," Aristella whispered. "From the moment she came into your arms, that was it. I don't think I ever saw you look at me the way you looked at her. Even when I tried to be the perfect wife, I still felt like I was standing in front of a door you'd already closed because she was behind it." Luna pressed her face into Makina's shoulder, sensing the sting even if she didn't understand the words. "I tried," Aristella said, "but every time she called you Papa and you dropped everything, I heard the message. I would always be second to a child that wasn't even mine." Kaylin's jaw tightened. "She is a child," he said. "She's not a rival. You were never supposed to fight her for space in my life." Aristella gave a small, broken laugh. Try telling that to the part of me he built. She jerked her chin toward Kavan. He trained me to believe everything is a ladder. Every person either lifts you or blocks you. I thought if I couldn't be the thing you loved most, I'd lose you. And the more she reminded you of your first wife, the more I felt like I was borrowing your life instead of living in it. For a moment, Kalen said nothing. He could see it all now. The tight smile when he canceled a dinner for Luna's fever. The way Aristella's eyes hardened when Makina sat on the floor to help Luna draw. The sharpness that slipped into her voice when Luna asked about her first mama. Beside them, Kavan sighed dramatically. "This is touching," he said. "Really, but you're leaving out my favorite part." "No one asked for your favorite anything," Makina muttered. He ignored her. "You're treating Amina like a side note in this," he said, tilting his head. "She was never a side note to me. She was unfinished business." Makina's grip tightened. "Don't you dare say her name like that." "Oh, but it's true," Kavan said. "She ran before I was done, disappeared with my problem inside her. She thought she could make me vanish by carrying my mess to someone like Hart. That was insulting." Kalen's eyes flashed. "She didn't owe you anything," he said. "You took from her. She owed you nothing." Kavan smiled thinly. "And yet she still tried to win, to control the outcome, to put my blood into your hands like some mercy project." He chuckled. "I spent years wondering what that child would look like, who she'd become, whether she'd ever cross my path again." Makina shook her head, voice shaking. "She's not your anything. She's not your legacy. She's not your second chance to ruin someone." Kavan's gaze slid past Kalen, past Aristella, and landed on the small figure in Makina's arms. Luna had lifted her head just enough to see over Makina's shoulder. Her cheeks were still damp, her eyes were still red. But there she was, alive, real, the center of every lie and every sacrifice in that room. Kavan's expression changed. The lazy amusement faded into something sharper, hungrier. "I finally understand," he said softly, "what Amina left behind." Makina pulled Luna closer. "Don't you look at her." Kavan didn't blink. "Oh, I'm looking," he replied. "Because that little girl is more than your secret, Makina, more than your comfort heart. She's leverage. She is the one piece Amina never meant to give me." He smiled, cold and certain. "And I've decided I want what she left behind." His eyes stayed locked on Luna as he said it, and every person in the room felt exactly who he was claiming. Makina's answer came fast, like she'd been holding it in her throat for years. "You tormented my sister," she said, pulling Luna closer into her arms. "You don't get to stand here and claim anything she left behind. You will not get near her child." Kavan's gaze stayed on Luna, but his smile flicked toward Makina. "Relax," he said. "If I wanted to hurt her, you'd already be on the floor. I don't need her blood. I need what she gives me." Kalen stepped closer. "And what's that?" "Control," Kavan replied simply. "You'd burn down the world for that girl. All I have to do is stand in her doorway, and you'll sign anything, hand over anything, walk away from anything. That's leverage, Hart. I don't have to touch a hair on her head to own you." Luna whimpered against Makina's shoulder. "Papa, I'm scared," she whispered. Kalen's voice softened, even as fury burned in his eyes. "I know, Moonbeam. I'm right here. Look at me." She turned her face just enough to see him, and he held her gaze like it was the only stable thing left in the room. "No one is taking you from me. Do you hear me? No one. Aristella broke in. Words rushed. "Kaylin, we need to leave. Right now. Take her. Go to the car. Call the police. Call your head of security." Makina shook her head sharply. "We can't," she cut in. "He's locked everything down. The gates, the doors, even the guards' radios. I tried to call before you got here. Nothing went out." Kavan lifted the small device in his hand, twirling it like a toy. "This mansion is mine for the night," he said. "Every exit answers to me. Every camera answers to me. I told you, Hart, I didn't just walk into your house. I turned it into my stage. If a child's fear doesn't move you, nothing will. Stories like this shouldn't be watched in silence." Luna's fingers dug into Makina's dress. "I want to go home," she sobbed. Makina kissed the side of her head. "You are home, baby," she whispered. "He's the one who doesn't belong here." Then she lifted her eyes to Kavan, anger burning through the fear. "You think you know everything," she said, "but you don't even know who you're trying to use." Kavan's smile thinned. "Enlighten me." Makina turned, meeting Kaylin's eyes. Her next words were meant for him, but she didn't look away from Kavan while she spoke. "You're not getting Luna," she said, "because she's not who you think she is." Kaylin felt the ground tilt again. "Makina, what are you saying?" Her throat worked as she swallowed, shifting Luna carefully so she could see Kaylin's face. "Sir," she said, voice low and shaking but clear, "Luna is not Amina's child." The room went dead quiet. Even Kavan stopped smiling. For the first time all night, every person in that room realized they knew nothing at all about anything. "Say it clearly," Kaylin demanded. "If Luna isn't Amina's child, whose is she?" Makina's arms tightened around the little girl. "The papers you've seen are real," she said. "The hospital, the date, the doctor's notes, none of that was forged. But the story around those papers was built." "Built by who?" "By your wife," Makina said, "and by me." "You've heard Amina's name for years," she went on, looking at Luna. "You've pictured her carrying you, but she didn't. She stood beside the bed, praying, holding my hand. The one who gave birth to you," she lifted her chin, "was me." The words hit everyone at once, like a slap. Kaylin stared. "You?" "I was 19, Makina said, "working 2 jobs, sleeping on a sofa. I found out I was pregnant and thought, I can barely feed myself. How do I feed a child? I was ashamed. I didn't tell anyone until I started to show." "Amina noticed first," she said. "She said, 'You're not in this alone.' She dragged me to the clinic, sat beside me, made me admit I was scared to be someone's mother while I still felt like a child." "So you decided to give the baby up?" Kaylin asked. "I decided I didn't deserve her," Makina said quietly. "I pictured her growing up on broken buses, watching me count coins for rent, watching men talk down to me. I loved her, but the life I had felt like a trap. Amina wouldn't let me stay there," she said. "She talked about another way. She said there was a man people trusted, and a woman who had more love than she knew what to do with. She meant you and your wife." "You hadn't even met me," Kaylin said. "I'd served you coffee," Makina answered. "Watched how you spoke to people no one else noticed. I watched your wife kneel to talk to staff. I thought, if my child ever calls someone mama, let it be a woman like that." "Amina arranged the meeting," she continued. "Your wife met us at the clinic. She listened to every ugly part and didn't flinch. She said, 'If we do this, she will never be a secret. She will be our daughter. She will be wanted.' She gave me a way to love my baby by letting her go." Aristella's face changed. Some of the cold edge fell away. The plan was simple, Makina said. When the baby came, the hospital would list your wife as the mother. I could stay in the background, help raise her as the maid, and when she turned 16, we would tell her the truth together. She drew a breath. Labor came early. I called Amina. Amina called your wife. We met at the hospital. It was me on that bed, Amina by my feet, your wife at my side. When Luna cried, I thought my heart would tear in half. Every part of me wanted to keep her. Then why didn't you? Kaylin rasped. Because I loved her too much to keep her in the life I had, Makina whispered. Your wife made me look her in the eyes and choose. She said, if you want to leave with her, I walk with you. If you want her to leave with me, I will raise her like my own. There was a choice. She looked down at Luna. I kissed your forehead, she said. I told you I loved you. Then I placed you in her arms and walked out, telling myself it was right. Caven finally spoke. So all this time, he said, I've been chasing the wrong thread. Amina wasn't the one who carried her. Makina still didn't look at him. You broke her life because she protected mine, she said. You hunted the wrong sister and still managed to destroy us both. Aristella's gaze dropped to Luna. The child she'd resented now looked like what she had always been, the center of a story everyone used and no one told her. All these years I called you staff, Kaylin said, voice rough. All these years you watched me be a father to your child and never said a word. That was the promise, Makina replied. We would tell her the truth at 16, when she was old enough to hold it without breaking. She looked back at Luna. But we didn't plan for him, she whispered, nodding toward Caven. We didn't plan for her to be used as a threat, or for her to think she was unwanted. That's why I'm saying it now. Her arms tightened around the girl. I was supposed to wait years to tell you who I am to you, Luna, she said softly. But tonight, because of him, I'm telling you early. Kavan's smile vanished so fast it was like someone wiped it off his face. For the first time since he'd entered the room, he looked genuinely thrown. Not Amina's, he repeated slowly. You're telling me I spent years chasing the wrong woman's shadow? Makina didn't flinch. Yes, she said, you did. His eyes hardened. You lied to me. Amina lied to you, Makina shot back. On purpose. She told you the pregnancy was hers because she knew if you found out it was mine, you'd never stop until you buried both of us. He laughed once, but there was no humor in it. So, all that time I thought she was protecting her own child. She was covering for her little sister. She was protecting Luna, Makina said. From you, from your obsession, from becoming a weapon in your war against a man who didn't even know she existed yet. Cavan's jaw clenched. His ego sat right there in the tight line of his mouth, in the way his hands flexed at his sides. You wasted my time, he said. You made me chase a ghost. Do you have any idea how many pieces I moved because I thought that girl carried my blood? Makina stepped closer, still gripping Luna. Good, she said. Every minute you spent chasing the wrong story was a minute you weren't standing here. Aristella watched him, something like fear and disgust mixing in her eyes. So this whole thing, she said, was built on your pride being hurt. My pride, Cavan replied, and my investment. I don't like making moves on false data. His stare cut back to Makina. You should have told me the truth from the start. She laughed, a broken sound. You think I owed you truth after what you did to Amina? She made you believe what she had to, so you'd stop hunting me. Kavan shook his head slowly, like he was realigning a puzzle in his mind. "Fine," he said at last. "So the child isn't Amina's. That doesn't make her useless. If anything, it makes this better." Kalen stepped in front of Makina, blocking his view of Luna. "You're finished talking about her like she's part of a plan," he said. But Kavan only smiled again, thin and sharp. "Look at this," he said, motioning lazily between them. "One little girl, two people willing to bleed for her. That's not a loss. That's leverage multiplied." He pointed not at Luna, but at Kalen's chest. "You care about her more than you care about your own name," he said. His finger shifted toward Makina. "And she would step into fire before she lets you touch her. Tell me again how that child is no longer useful to me." Makina's voice shook. "You won't use her, not for anything. I'd rather die." "You might," Kavan said casually. "That's the fun of nights like this. You never know who walks out." Kalen took another step closer, shoulders broad, stance solid. "Listen to me," he said. "I don't care whose body carried her. I don't care what you think she's worth on your twisted chessboard. She is mine. She is Makina's. She is not yours. She will never be yours." "Is that so?" Kavan asked. "Yes," Kalen said. "You can burn the companies. You can take the buildings. You can drag my name through every headline you want. I'll rebuild from nothing if I have to. But if you think I will trade her safety for any part of my empire, you don't know me at all. If you were in his place, would you protect the child? Or the empire? Your answer says a lot about you." Something in the room shifted with those words. The broken toys, the torn drawings, the trembling child. All of it stood against polished marble and silent wealth. For once, the numbers in Kalen's bank account meant nothing. Kavan watched him, studying every word, every line of his face. "Loyalty," he murmured. "People like you love that word. You think it makes you noble. All it does is give me the perfect pressure points." "You overestimate yourself," Kalen said. "And you underestimate what I've already done," Kavan replied. He lifted the small black device again, turning it between his fingers like a coin. "You still think this is just a power cut and a few doors locked. You haven't realized yet that I don't half do anything." "What did you do?" Makina demanded. He smiled at her. "I told you, I made this house my stage, but I left one curtain up. Time to drop it." He pressed his thumb down on another button. Somewhere deep in the mansion, metal groaned. A heavy clank echoed through the halls, followed by another, then another. The sound rolled through the floors like distant thunder. Luna flinched, hiding her face again. "What's that?" she whispered. Kalen looked toward the hallway, jaw tight. "Locks," he said. "He's sealing us in." Red lights blinked to life along the base of the walls, tiny indicators that had never flashed before. The security panel near the door lit up, every exit icon turning a steady red. "The gates?" Aristella's voice shook. "What about the gates?" "Offline," Kavan said calmly. "The front door, the side doors, the balcony. Locks, the garage entry, all sealed. Even the panic room answers to me." "You've trapped a child in here," Makina said. "Do you feel powerful now?" Kavan shrugged. "I feel focused. Now there's nowhere for you to run, nothing to hide behind. Just you, your choices, and the people you say you'd do anything for." He slipped the device back into his pocket. "Let's see how far your loyalty really goes." Another slam echoed through the house, then another, closer this time. The last sound was the click of the main gate locking into place, the echo of it running through the bones of the mansion like a warning they couldn't ignore. The sound of the last lock slamming still echoed in the walls when the real silence started. The mansion lights were dimmer now, running on backup. Shadows sat in the corners. Makina's voice came low at Kaylin's shoulder. "We can't let him split us up," she whispered. "Luna needs both of us right now. If he pulls you one way and me the other, she's going to feel like she's already lost." Luna's arms were looped around Makina's neck, her face buried in that small space between shoulder and jaw. Kaylin could see her fingers clutching fabric. He nodded once. "You stay with her," he said quietly. "Don't move out of this room unless I tell you. I'll handle him." Makina's eyes searched his. "You don't have to do this alone." "I know," he said, "but he's aiming at me. It's time he looks me in the eye when he fires." Caven watched this exchange like a man at the theater. He stepped toward the center of the ruined playroom, turning in a slow circle as if taking in his set. Torn drawings, broken crayons, a child's message on the wall begging her father to hurry. "For years," he said, "you lived in this house with secrets under your own roof, a wife with a second life, a maid with a hidden child, a daughter whose story you never really knew, and you call yourself a leader, Hart." Kaylin faced him fully. "You mistake trust for blindness," he said. Kavan chuckled. "Trust is a pretty word people use when they don't want to admit they weren't paying attention." "I knew enough," Kaylin said. "I knew my daughter laughed when she was safe and stopped laughing when someone broke something inside her. I knew who made her feel seen and who made her feel small. Those were the truths that mattered." "And yet here we are," Kavan replied, spreading his hands. "Your house under my lock, your family under my control, your past suddenly full of holes. Tell me again how trust has served you." "It kept me human," Kaylin said. "I'd rather be the man who chose to believe the people he loved than the man who built his life on fear and control." Kavan's eyes hardened at the word fear. Then his smile slid back into place. "Believe whatever makes you feel noble," he said. "It won't change how this night ends." Behind them, Aristella had been standing very still, hands pressed together so hard her knuckles were white. She looked from Kaylin to Luna to Kavan, like she was finally seeing the line that connected them all, and where she'd been standing on it. "No," she said suddenly. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the room. Kavan glanced back at her. "No what?" "No, Kavan," Aristella said louder now. "You're not doing this anymore. Not through me, not in his house, not with that child." There was a raw edge in her voice that hadn't been there before. Kavan stared at her like she'd broken some unspoken rule. "Be careful," he said softly. "You and I both know what happens when you forget who put you where you are." Aristella let out a small, breathless laugh. "You didn't put me here," she said. "I walked myself into this mess. You just handed me the pen and told me where to sign." "You enjoyed every second until the bill came due," Kavan replied. She nodded once. "Yes," she said. "I did. I liked the doors you opened. I liked the cameras and the headlines. I liked feeling like I mattered." Her eyes filled. "But I didn't see what it was costing until tonight. Until I watched you lock a child in her own home just to prove a point." Makina shifted, holding Luna a little tighter. Aristella took a step forward, away from the safety of standing behind someone else. "You think you know his weaknesses," she said to Kavan. "You think it's just that little girl and the woman holding her. But you're missing something." Kavan's brows rose. Is that so? You're not the only one who's been watching, she said. You're not the only one who knows where the cracks are. He studied her, that old mix of interest and threat sliding across his face. What are you doing, Aristella? She drew in a shaky breath. Something I should have done a long time ago. She turned to Kaelin for a brief second. You were right, she said. I built our life on fear. I let him into rooms you never knew about. I helped him without saying his name. She swallowed hard. But I also know what he's scared of, and it's not you finding out about me. Kavan's eyes narrowed. Careful. She faced him again. You want to talk about leverage? She said. You want to talk about pressure points? I know yours. I know the deals you made that would destroy you if they ever saw daylight. I know the accounts that don't exist on paper. I know the people who would drag you into the fire to save themselves if they learned you kept them in the dark. For the first time, real anger flashed across Kavan's face. You wouldn't, he said. I might, she replied, because I'm done being the knife you hold in someone else's back. The room felt tighter. Kaelin watched them, his own anger now layered with something else. Aristella took another step, putting herself slightly between Kavan and the others. You're aiming at the wrong target, she said. You keep saying, the child, like she's your main play. But she's not, is she? Kavan didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. Aristella turned, looking straight at Kaelin, her voice steady for the first time that night. He's not here for Luna, she said. She lifted her hand and pointed at Kaelin's chest. He wants you. He wants you. The words still hung between them when the rest of the picture finally snapped into place. Aristella didn't look away from Kaelin as she spoke. Your company, your name, your power, she said. That's what he came for. Luna was never the prize. She was just the easiest way to make you bleed fast. Kavan gave a slow clap. Congratulations, he said. You finally caught up. Kaelin's jaw tightened. So this has always been about the Empire. Of course, Kavan replied. You built something I could never buy outright. Influence, trust. A brand people lean on when they're scared. Why would I waste energy destroying that from the outside when I can stand in your place and enjoy it? Makina's arms tightened around Luna. You locked us in this house, tore open every secret you could find, and you're still talking about business, she said. Kavan shrugged. Business is the only thing that lasts. Feelings burn out. He glanced at Luna. Children grow up and leave. They forget your promises. Companies, though, they keep paying you back if you play them right. Aristella shook her head. He wants your chair at the head table, she said to Kaelin. Your board, your contacts. He's been setting this up for years. Every leak, every failed deal, every time you thought you misread a partner. He was there. So Luna was just bait, Kaelin said. Kavan did not even bother to deny it. Children are leverage, he said calmly. They scream, you move, they cry, and a man like you will sign anything just to make it stop. Makina stared at him like he was not human. You talk about children like they're tools, she whispered, like they're not people. To me, they're pressure points, Kavan said. You and Hart made her your heart. I made her my advantage. That's the difference between us. Kaelin stepped forward. You're not getting my company. Kavan reached into his jacket and pulled out a slim black folder. He held it up between two fingers. You already signed the first version without reading, he said. Board power of attorney, remember? All I need now is your signature on the final transfer. One quick line, and this all goes away." Kalen's eyes narrowed. "I'm not signing anything." Kavan smiled. "Not yet." He flipped the folder open, revealing pages dense with print. "This," he said, "gives me controlling interest in your main holding company. Your name stays on the building. People will still think it's yours. But every decision, every vote, every dollar that matters runs through me." Aristella stepped in, voice urgent. "Don't believe him," she said. "Even if you sign, he won't stop. He never stops. The first win just makes him hungry for more." Kavan shot her a look. "You talk like you're free of me," he said. "You're standing here because of me." "I'm standing here in fear because of you," she answered. "There's a difference." Kalen did not take the folder. "You think you can scare me into giving you my life's work?" he said. "You think locking us in here gives you power, but I've already told you, there is nothing you can take from me that matters more than that child." Kavan cocked his head. "Nothing?" "Nothing," Kalen repeated. A slow smile tugged at Kavan's mouth. "We'll test that," he said softly, "because there's one thing you still don't know. One piece she hasn't told you." He pointed at McKenna. Her shoulders stiffened. "If this part of the story hurts to hear, imagine living it. Some truths deserve more than just a quiet scroll past." Kalen's eyes moved to McKenna. "What is he talking about?" McKenna stared at the floor. "He's twisting it," she said quickly. "That's what he does. He takes the ugliest memory and turns it into a weapon." "A memory you gave him," Kavan added. "You came to me that night, remember? When Amina died. You begged me for help." McKenna flinched, holding Luna so tight the girl gave a small sound of protest. Kalen felt his chest tighten. "The night Amina died," he repeated slowly. "You told me she didn't make it through the birth. That was all." "It was the truth," McKenna whispered. "Just not the whole truth." Kavan stepped closer, voice low and poisonous. "Tell him about the call you made," he said. "Tell him about the deal you almost struck with me. How you thought you could trade one kind of safety for another." McKenna shook her head, tears starting to form. "Stop," she said. "You know why I did what I did. You know what that night was." Kalen's eyes didn't leave her. "McKenna," he said, gentle but firm. "Look at me." She lifted her gaze at last, and in it he saw something he had not seen even when she confessed to being Luna's mother, deep, gnawing guilt. A memory she'd kept buried under every other secret. "Tell me what happened," he said. McKenna opened her mouth. No sound came, only air. Every muscle in her body went tight, frozen between the man she feared and the man she'd lied to, with Luna's small arms still wrapped around her neck. For the first time, it looked like the truth itself might break her before she could speak it. Silence filled the room, heavy and sharp. Even Luna seemed to sense that this wasn't a moment for questions. She just clung to McKenna, tiny fingers digging into her skin. Aristella watched with wide eyes, lips parted, as if she too was hearing the weight of that night for the first time. Kavan folded his arms, almost relaxed now, knowing he had dragged them all to the edge of something they couldn't step around. Kalen didn't move. He just waited, every second stretching thin. And McKenna stayed there, caught in the center, unable to step forward, unable to go back, stuck in the doorway of a truth that refused to come out. "She tied yours to hers," McKenna said, "and she made me promise something else. About you." The room seemed to tilt. Kalen's fingers curled at his sides. "About me? How?" he asked. McKenna looked at him like she was bracing for impact. "This didn't start with me," she said softly. "It started with you, years before Luna was born, before you ever saw my face." Cavan scoffed. "Oh, now we get the legend of St. Caelan?" Makina ignored him. Her eyes stayed on Caelan. "Do you remember," she asked, "a woman you helped a long time ago? Not in a boardroom, not at a gala, on the street." Caelan frowned. "I help a lot of people." "This was different," Makina said. "It was late. You were leaving a charity event near the old bridge. Your driver slowed because a woman was arguing with a man in the shadows. He was grabbing her arm. She was trying to pull away. You told the driver to stop." Something flickered in Caelan's eyes. "You got out," Makina went on. "You didn't know her name. You just saw her face. You told the man to let go. He laughed at you until he realized who you were. Then he backed off, said it was nothing, walked away." Caelan's gaze drifted, remembering. "She wouldn't look at me at first," he murmured. "She kept saying she was fine." Makina nodded quickly. "She was shaking. You offered to call the police. She begged you not to, said she couldn't handle any more questions. You offered to call her a cab. She didn't even know where to go." He fell silent. The memory was no longer a blur. It was a room he was being pulled back into. "You took her to that small, safe house apartment your lawyer kept for staff in trouble," Makina said. "The one no one talks about. You told her she could stay there for a night. You gave her food, clean clothes. You stayed in the kitchen while she showered because you didn't want to scare her." Cavan rolled his eyes. "Touching." Makina's voice didn't waver. But the shaking didn't stop. She kept having flashbacks, couldn't breathe. You sat on the floor with her, not on the couch, on the floor. You kept the door open so she wouldn't feel trapped. Caelan shut his eyes briefly. "I remember a woman crying into a towel," he said, "saying she'd made too many bad choices, saying she didn't deserve kindness." "That was Amina," Makina whispered. The name landed like a soft, heavy stone. "You didn't know it," she said. "She never told you. She said if she told you her name, she'd feel tied to you. She didn't want to feel that way. Not again. She just wanted one night where someone treated her like a person, not a problem." Aristella watched him, stunned. She'd known he helped people. She'd never pictured this. "You stayed," Makina said quietly. "You told her you'd leave if she wanted you to. She asked you to stay, not because she wanted a fling, because she couldn't stand the quiet. You talked until your voice went rough, about how pain doesn't mean a person is trash, about starting over, about how you'd once thought your own life was over and turned it around anyway." Cavan snorted. "And then what? The inspiring speech turned into a bed story?" Makina's eyes burned. "No," she said. "The trauma did. 2 broken people in the same room, both exhausted, both hurting. It wasn't a cold hookup. It was 2 people clinging to the first moment of safety they'd seen in a long time. It was messy and human and full of regret even as it happened." She took a breath. "In the morning, she was gone before you woke up. You left money on the table. She didn't take it. You left a card. She tore it up. She told herself you'd forget her, and she decided that was the best thing." Caelan's voice dropped. "She was pregnant." Makina nodded. "Weeks later, she realized. She could have called. She could have shown up at one of your events. She didn't. She said you had a whole world on your shoulders, and she refused to be another problem for you to fix." His throat worked. "I would have." "She knew." Makina cut in gently. She said, "If I tell him, it will sound like a trap, like I'm trying to climb into his life with a baby in my hands. She wanted you to remember her. If you remembered her at all, as a woman you helped, not as someone who used you. Tears slipped down Makina's cheeks now. The night she died, she told me everything. She told me about the safe house, about the towel, about the way you looked at her like you could see past every bad choice she'd ever made and still not flinch. Makina swallowed, then forced the last words out. She said, "He is her father, not the man I ran from, not the man who wants to own her, the man who sat on the floor and held my shaking hands. Tell him only when it's safe for her, not for me, for her." The room dropped into a deeper kind of silence. Makina turned fully toward Kaylin, Luna still in her arms. "Sir," she whispered, "Luna isn't just my daughter." Her voice shook, but she didn't look away. "She's yours, by blood, by promise, by every choice you made without even knowing her name." Kaylin stared at Luna like he was seeing her for the first time and the 1,000th time at once. Her eyes, the way her mouth trembled when she was scared, the way she clung to Makina and still searched for him in every room. Pieces slid into place. The strange pull he'd felt from the moment he'd held her, how his heart had latched onto her like she'd been there long before he met her. His voice broke. He tried again. "I'm her father." Makina nodded, tears falling freely now. "You always were," she said. "We just didn't have the courage to tell you." Behind them, Kavan's composure cracked. "You're joking," he snapped. "All this time, I thought I was fighting a symbol, a reminder of a woman who ran. And she's actually his," Makina said, "in every way that matters." Kavan's eyes darted between Luna and Kaylin, calculation stuttering for the first time. The leverage he thought he held suddenly looked a lot more complicated. If this final truth hit you in the chest, don't let it stay with you alone. Someone else out there needs a reminder that family isn't always about how you start, but how you choose to fight for each other. Kaylin stepped closer, one hand rising without thinking. Luna reached for him on instinct, small fingers gripping his shirt. He pulled her into his arms and felt something settle into place inside him. Heavier, deeper, but right. "This changes nothing about how far I'll go for you," he whispered into her hair. "It just gives me one more reason." For a moment, even the air seemed to soften. Makina watched them, pain and peace tangled in her expression. Aristella looked at the scene with a kind of stunned acceptance, like she was facing the cost of every choice she'd ever made. Then the lights went out. Total blackness swallowed the room again. Luna gasped. Makina's hand found Kaylin's arm. Red standby dots glowed briefly, then died. Kavan's voice slid through the dark, low and eager. "Now," he said, "things get interesting.